Carol. Any correction or no?
Good evening.
Minutes? No.
I'd like to call the San Bruno City Council meeting of January 13th, 2009 to order. I'd like to begin by thanking the San Bruno Garden Club for the floral arrangement they've presented for this evening's meeting. And if we could have roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Here.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Here.
Mayor Franzella.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here.
If I could ask Vice Mayor Ruane to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome members of Troop 250 that are here from San Bruno Boy Scouts and Troop Leader Mike Larson. Welcome. Announcements this evening: the Redevelopment Agency will have a meeting following tonight's council meeting. Presentations we have none this evening. We do have a request to add an item under item 5 to the agenda. It's an item regarding library going out requesting a resolution for authorization to submit for public facilities rehabilitation. The item was presented after the posting of the agenda, and action is required prior to the next January 27th meeting. So if the council has it before you, and in order to add this meeting, it requires a motion and a 4/5 vote. So is there?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the item has been added to the agenda as item 9L. Okay, item 6, approval of minutes, the regular city council meeting of December 9th, 2008. The minutes will stand approved as submitted unless there's any changes or corrections. City Clerk?
There is a change on the order of the items that are on the agenda. There had been a vote placed that was, I believe, 3-2, and that's not included in the minutes, and I will include it in the minutes to reflect that vote.
Okay, so with that correction, any other corrections? Okay. Minutes will stand approved as submitted. Item 7, consent calendar. All items are considered routine or implement an earlier council action may be enacted by one motion unless there's separate discussion, unless requested by council member, citizen, or staff. Any items to be pulled or requested to pull?
Through the chair.
Councilmember Medina?
Very quickly, just 7G.
7G. Okay. Any action to approve the remaining items?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 7G, adopt resolution approving amended city council agenda format. Councilmember?
Very quickly, just for clarification, under the report from the manager, which I've already discussed with Connie today, it just alluded to the fact that that all committee, commissions, and boards public comment was going to be placed as ours, which I believe we had discussed and decided that would be left to the discretion of each body to make that determination. So I just wanted that noted within that.
Okay.
Move to accept. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 8, public hearings. There are none. Item 9, conduct of business. A, adopt resolution accepting the independent auditor's reports, the city's comprehensive annual financial report, the single audit report, Measure A funds audit for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2008. And then later this evening, there will be a redevelopment agency to accept those audit reports in the redevelopment agency. Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, as I indicated earlier this evening to the Council, the Municipal Code requires that an independent annual audit of the city's financial statements be conducted annually, and it has been the Council's direction and good policy and practice to change auditors every 3 to 5 years to ensure that the financial statements are looked at with fresh eyes. Following completion of the 2007 audit, the Finance Department issued a request for proposals that resulted in the City Council selecting Mayor Hoffman McCann to undertake the financial audit for the statements as of June 30th of 2008. One requirement of the contract was that the audit be completed by December 31st, and by working together, the Finance Department and the Mayor firm has completed the audits, and they are here tonight for the City Council's consideration and acceptance. For the public, would just point out that the City Council did spend the last hour in consultation and review of the financial statements with the auditors and the City Council, I appreciate the discussion. I appreciate both the review that the auditors conducted on the various financial statements, the single audit, the CAFR, the Measure A. There's a variety of audit statements that are required as part of the overall audit. I won't go into any more detail than the auditors did. I would just point out again, one of the major components of the auditor's report is what's referred to as the opinion, and I just wanted to reiterate that the independent auditor's report did state that in their opinion, the basic financial statements referred to above, in fact, fairly present in all material respects the financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, major funds, and the aggregate fund information provided for the City of San Bruno. So it was an unqualified opinion provided by the auditors, and with that, I'd be glad to answer. If the council had any additional questions, be glad to answer them.
Any questions of the director? Action from council?
Through the chair, I'd like to introduce the resolution for adoption with the comment that I want to say what a wonderful job staff did working with the auditors, and very, very well done. It's a long time coming.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell. Aye. Mayor Franzella.
Aye. Item B, receive information report about global positioning systems.
There we go. Honorable Mayor and City Council members, the report is informational only. We've supplied you with the report. I'd like to state, as staff, as we checked into this, we checked to see what our neighboring cities are doing. We found that there were 3 cities that were considering it, 2 were using it, 1 considering it. Both that were using it are using it for primarily safety of employees as well as employee monitoring and to monitor complaints as far as trucks and locations of trucks at certain areas. Other than that, we're just open for any questions on the systems.
Any questions from staff? Barry, Larry, you'd asked that this come forward. Did you want to speak on this issue before we move beyond it?
Yeah.
Thank you. John Barrelier, North San Anselmo. I've got a couple of newspaper articles to show you the headlines. Red ink runs deep in Bay Area. San Francisco cuts nearly 400 city worker jobs. Health programs slashed. City's budget shortfall worse than expected. Officials say it's hard to track bailout money. State lost 20,300 jobs in January. I'm intrigued by a word that the young people today use. It's a 1-syllable word that's pronounced as 2 syllables and takes the place of so many older phrases that express what did you expect when you neglected to pay attention. Asleep at the switch. Closing the barn door after the horse has been stolen. Nobody's watching the store. The word is duh, and is pronounced duh and seldom softly, so that one may emphasize how remiss you were in your assigned duties. It might be well applied to the SEC, who let Bernard Madoff get away with $50 billion, duh. It might be applied to San Francisco, where the average salary is $100,000 for city workers. And so 400 will be laid off this year, and policemen there will have to forego a salary increase. Was it due to duh-ism that overtime pay and general oversight of city workers and their schedules weren't practiced? Did the city workers there step on their own toes? A few weeks ago, television news showed Oakland workers marching with signs that said, "Don't cut our hours." 2 weeks before that, a story from that city said that several hundred city workers made over $200,000 for the year, largely due to lack of oversight regarding overtime. Duh. Now in San Bruno, what if 7 men took a 45-minute break twice a day for a year? Multiply it out, I did, at only $45 an hour. Low considering salary and benefits. It came to $118,000. Note to the San Bruno Education Association, how many cupcake sales is that? Never mind the 20 minutes per day that these workers had coming by contract. It was easily used up by the travel time to and from the job site, to the coffee shop and back to the coffee shop and back and forth. Not included in the $118,000 were the downtime of the vehicles, gasoline, other overhead, lost services to customers. City workers who take advantage of the lack of oversight would not survive in private industry, which begs the question, why should taxpayers put up with this abuse? These are very tough times. Vallejo and their bankruptcy, cutbacks in vital programs for the poor statewide, charging for the use of play fields by cities, shutting down sports programs in high schools, foreclosures, people being laid off. Prospects are not good. We've cut fire, police, education, library, and recreation. Shouldn't we look at all this free time? Private businesses and other cities have installed GPS systems in their vehicles and have enjoyed the benefits of knowing where they were and for how long. It's time San Bruno did the same. And don't be surprised if we save a lot of money. Duh. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council or further comments from staff? Ms. Strawberry, City Manager.
I would just like to make one comment. We've provided in the report that you received, the written report, some information about how global positioning systems work, and we investigated the value that and the use that some of our neighboring jurisdictions are using them. A small number I would identify. I would request the council's consideration of this in the context of Mr. Berlaire's comments that suggest that these units may be used in order to assure efficiencies. I did not hear that there are specific issues or instances of concern. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That I think, I'm sorry, we're getting a little feedback. But I feel compelled to just suggest that your staff who monitors the work activities of our operations very carefully is not specifically aware of any, and certainly not any large problem that would suggest that our staff is taking advantage in the way that Mr. Berlaire suggested could occur of the entitlement that they have to a reasonable lunch period in half an hour, and the 15-minute break period. So I hope there's no confusion about what's being suggested here tonight.
Thank you. Any questions?
Through the chair, and I'd just like to say in brief form, I do take exception to someone coming to public, and unless you've got proof positive that there's 7 employees that are taking 45-minute breaks, twice a day, and then expound on what savings and what what's being wasted and everything, then unless you've got a case, then make the case. Don't come here and say that we need to monitor our employees this much more with these type of units and everything, when in fact we don't feel that that our employees are operating that way.
You're wrong.
Come forward with the proof, and we will look at it.
Okay. Any other questions on this item?
Through the chair.
Councilmember Medina.
Very quickly, where I work, we do use some devices there within the Nextel phone, and that's primarily for our truck drivers. but that's also because of the vast territory in which they cover throughout Northern Cal. With our city of a 6.1 square mile radius, as far as knowing where the truck is or stationed for its duration, I believe that there's probably work orders or assignments, I'm asking, that actually come back, do they not, to say this is what task was performed, here's the time that it normally took, here's the costs that were allocated for that task, and then the field supervisor is able to review and summarize to ensure that the time and energy that was expounded for each task was appropriate?
Councilmember Medina, our supervisor are monitoring very closely where the crew is and how much time they are spending for each task directed them to perform.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, item 9C, receive report from City Treasurer on City Investment Program.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. As required by state law, the city maintains a current investment policy that authorizes the investment of city funds not immediately needed for payroll and accounts payable.
John, your microphone's not on.
Push the button.
Sorry. Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, I'll start over. As required by state law, the city maintains a current investment policy that authorizes the investment of city funds not immediately needed for payroll and accounts payable. This policy is reviewed and updated on an annual basis. The policy permits investments in individual securities, the local agency investment fund administered by the state treasurer, and the San Mateo County investment pool managed by the county treasurer. The city has maintained investments in all three permitted options over many years. On November 17th of 2008, the City Council adopted policy revisions affecting the maximum investment allowed in each category. Specifically, these revisions included: the maximum to be allocated to any one category shall make up no more than 1/3 of the entire portfolio. And secondly, the individual securities available for investment were limited to direct obligations of the federal government, federal agency debt securities and FDIC insured investments, and medium-term notes of U.S. corporations with an A or better rating. The last quarter of 2008 saw significant changes in the city's investment portfolio. $6 million, or approximately 20% of the total invested, was placed in federal agency obligations, specifically Fannie Mae, Federal Home Loan Bank, and Federal Farm Credit Bureau issues. As of December 31st, 2008, the individual securities were valued at $81,000 more and had a yield of 3.94%. The local agency investment fund had a balance of $5.8 million as of 12/31. Again, approximately 20% of the portfolio. The LAIF current yield is 2.568%. LAIF has had no exposure, I'd like to point out, to mortgage-backed securities that have been at the center of the financial turmoil over the past year. The San Mateo County pool balance has been reduced to $21.5 million as of December 31st, 2008. This balance was further reduced by 20% on January 9th of this year and placed in the city's LAIF account. The gradual transfer from the investment pool will continue until the city's investments are balanced according to the investment policy. I would like to point out that our county treasurer has requested that all depositors into the pool accounts limit their monthly withdrawals to no more than 20% of their balance. This is done so to it enables them to more easily manage the funds. We don't want to run on the bank, so to speak. So I have honored that request. It is also important to note that as of October 2008, that federal agency debt obligations, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Federal Home Loan Bank, etc., have the explicit backing of the federal government rather than the previously implied backing. This has strengthened not only the individual securities held, but also those held within the county's investment pool. Furthermore, in November of 2008, San Mateo County filed suit against Lehman Brothers and certain executives of the firm. This suit seeks to recover the lost money stemming from the bankruptcy filing by Lehman Brothers in September. It's still obviously very early in the process to report any meaningful results. As more detail becomes available, they will be reported immediately. And finally, subsequent to the submission of this report, it was learned that Senator Feinstein has submitted legislation that would provide funds to a local governmental agency that lost funds specifically invested in failed financial firms. Again, as more details become available, they will be reported immediately.
Any questions of the treasurer, council? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you, John. Move on to item 9D, receive design details for a new stop sign located on Crystal Springs Road at Donner Avenue. Laura?
Honorable Mayor, Council members, good evening again. What you have before you tonight is to consider the details for a bulb-out implementation of a stop sign at the intersection of Crystal Spring Road and Donner. At the December 9th council meeting, the council approved the installation of the to address safety concern at the intersection of Crystal Spring and Donner, to install red curb at that location, and also to install a stop sign in a bulb out. Also at that time, the direction of the council was for us to come back with details for the implementation of that bulb out and the stop sign. You have here the details for the bulb out. How you can see the reason why is a certain distance between the curb and the bulb out, that the specific drainage need of that intersection was needed to create that separation to basically allow the surface runoff to flow between the curb and the bulb out, and not to create safety concern during some rain event at that intersection. Also, I brought here a big, very, very heavy, by the way, and nobody helped me to carry here. I carried this all by myself. This is the standard paver for the city, and this will be implemented at that location also. Steve Davis is here to help me with any answer for any question what you might have.
First question that comes to my mind is, I understand the need for the gap, but now you're using a paver that is probably a couple of inches lower than the existing curb there, and we're going to have a gap. It almost seems as though you're creating some type of tripping hazard. I mean, can that be covered with a plate? Can we extend across? Those pavers, if I'm not mistaken, are going to be lower than your existing curb. So you're going to step up 2 inches, and then if someone elects to walk on the bulb out, they have to step up another 2 inches onto the curb?
Mayor Franzella, how you can see on the detail is shown that the height of the curb will be 6 inch, will be a concrete curb around at that elevation, and that basically this paver will be in the top of it.
So it'll be at the same height?
Yes.
Then my only other question is there some type of cover on that gap? Because I could see someone stepping down and breaking an ankle or twisting it. Can it be covered with some type of steel plate?
Was part of our discussion internally that how was indicated in our report This will need to have some final design work done before the department will go out for a RFP to implement this bulb out. Is for us to consider basically to keep a contiguous bulb out between the curb and the bulb out, and to have a low kind of culvert below it, and to address that possible stripping hazard that you are referring to.
Other questions from council members or?
Through the chair? Oh,
Irene? Yeah.
thank you. I was looking at the Crystal Springs as I was driving up very carefully tonight, and the distance between the two sidewalks on the lower part of Crystal Springs and where you have the bulb outs is really not the way it's drawn here. It's really much wider, or at least it looks that way, because of how the Donner side comes out. So if you're driving up Crystal Springs, the stop sign, even with your bulb out, is going to be more to the right than usual, unless, let me rephrase that. How big is this bulb out? How many feet out into the intersection is it so that it's easily seen by people driving up? And there's no street light there either, because it's going to be a difficult thing to see.
So currently, curb to curb, the dimension is about 56 feet. So at the point where you're approaching Donner, the driving lane is closer to 30 feet wide. The goal would be to reduce the driving lane to about 14 feet. So the bulb out is in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 feet in width. So it will be pretty substantial, and
right.
a big intent is to try and alert people and to force them to maneuver towards the center line so that they'll be prepared to continue up Crystal Springs.
Okay, so, that's what I thought you were going to do. So it's hard to discern from this picture. So then when people are coming up and they're going to make a right turn on Donner, that's going to be awkward too. So I appreciate what you did. I know the council directed you to do this, and I'm probably in the minority here, but I still think we need to go back and look at the whole thing, as Clara, as you advised last time. I think having a 10-foot, now 10 feet, people, that's almost 3 of these, bulb out from the sidewalk. As people are driving up, they're gonna have to maneuver around that to go up Donner. So it's a difficult solution. I know we asked for this solution, and I know we kind of forced it on you, but I don't think this is the best solution that we can come up with. And I think maybe doing what you suggested last time might be a better way to go.
Through the chair.
Councilmember Williams?
I would have the same concern, except that what's going to really, I think, solve the Councilwoman O'Connell's concerns is the stop sign, as people aren't going to come up and take a real hard right turn. Everybody's going to have to stop there. So they're going to have to think about what they're doing and take time to actually make that right turn and take time to actually proceed up Crystal Springs. So I really don't have the same concerns. I think the stop sign is going to solve a lot of that.
Councilmember O'Connor, based on my discussion with the city manager, Connie Jackson, it is possible as part of our normal budget process and capital improvement plan development to take and to make some recommendation to the city manager as part of that process to consider some alternative solution between Hazel and Donner, that basically that portion of that whole Crystal Spring is different in nature than the other two sections of Crystal Spring. And during that prioritization process, the council will have the opportunity to make a decision if you really want us to consider anything else later on at this location or not.
Other
Through
comments, Ken?
through the chair, I'm totally in favor of the stop sign. I have a problem with this bulb out. I had envisioned a bulb out that would be pretty similar to something that we have downtown, where you have the parking pockets and then you actually have the pavement bulb out at the crosswalk. I think we're with all of the children and all of the activity in that intersection and the park and the church. I think the mayor's comments about this gap, purely for drainage reasons, is something that could be a future problem or an immediate problem. I thought that we would see a total reconstruction of the corner with the sidewalk, the curb cut, so that it looks like a true, something that was truly designed and something that you would see like on a downtown intersection or something. That is a very active area, and I think if it becomes part of the sidewalk and the as far as the whole infrastructure and roadway, that that people will follow it accordingly. I think this is just a somewhat of a permanent obstacle now. I realize that you have to have something out there substantial to support, a stop sign. But I think if we were to take the beginning of that red curve and just start curving it, and so that people can see the gradual narrowing of the intersection, that would be more kind. I mean, it's either that or put a median in the middle to narrow it down. I know you're dealing with, too wide of a space. So.
Councilmember Ibarra, how I indicated before, will be our intent during the design for this bulb out to really eliminate that gap. Will be our intent basically to have a contiguous surface from between the sidewalk and the bulb out. I hear your concern at this time, not really considering other alternative and to really redesign that whole intersection. I cannot offer you any better solution right now. I made the commitment that as part of the budget process and the prioritization process, I can take forward alternatives which were discussed among ourselves, including planted median, or at this location, maybe roundabout and traffic circles. At those three intersections, like Oak, Hazel, and Donner, considering that the major challenge here is this really is that section of Crystal Spring is much wider than the other remaining two segments, and that's could be some other means how you can really calm the traffic and lower speed down, and also to have safety movement through those intersections. At this time, my best only recommendation at this time really is available to me to present to you is this design or with also with the understanding that will be a contiguous surface between the sidewalk and the bulb out itself.
City Manager,
if I can make a suggestion here, I think we all understand what the problem here is, and as Councilmember O'Connell indicated earlier, we are returning to the council with a with the information that you requested. What my suggestion would be is that perhaps the council might wish to ask us to schedule a review of this issue in a little bit more detail with the Surface Infrastructure Committee, which, if I recall correctly, consists of council members.
The two guys at the end.
Councilmember Ibarra and Medina.
Mutt and Jeff.
And this might be an opportunity for us to more thoroughly evaluate some of the ideas that staff has had, that the council has, and the concerns that are being expressed here tonight. If that is acceptable to the council, we'd be certainly prepared to take that up.
Yeah, and a field trip too, so we can have the residents also understand what we're looking at too.
I think that's a good solution.
Okay, so we'll send it back to committee to come with some ideas, and in that meeting, probably a good idea to invite the public to attend, and you can have some input into the design, because you're going to have to look at it every day. I think, I don't know that absent a complete redoing of curb and gutter in that area, which certainly is going to be a lot more than the staff report proposes at $8,100, that perhaps maybe rather than pavers, there might be some need to actually design it as a median with some landscaping to break up, 10 or 12 feet of pavers just kind of adjacent to a sidewalk is a massive amount of pavers to have to look at. And it might be worthwhile putting in some type of drought-tolerant landscaping there, and definitely I think it's a real concern that be plated over, and so there's a contiguous surface, so there's not a tripping hazard.
Mayor Franzella, also our discussion with the city manager was that will be our intent to develop a toolkit for the traffic calming program, and to have specific design alternatives for your consideration and to discuss before this specific location will come up, and to have a comfort level on your part what those alternatives, traffic calming alternatives, you would support implementing wherever is needed throughout the city.
Okay. Thank you. So this will go back to the committee, and I believe the clerk has your names and numbers of those neighbors that spoke last time in the department, but if you want to make sure, you can always contact the city clerk tomorrow. Just give your name and phone number of anyone that's interested in that particular intersection, and they'll make sure that you're invited to any meetings. Okay, thank you. Item 9E, review and accept annual report on development impact fees for year ended June 30th, 2008. Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, in general, state legislation requires the disclosure and review by the City Council of development impact fees collected by the city, and further that any impact fee, developer impact fee collected that has not been allocated for expenditure within 5 years potentially be returned to the party from which it was collected. San Bruno has several development fees that are development impact or quasi-development impact fees, including such things as park and lieu fees, the new below market rate housing fee. There are also capacity charges for both water and wastewater. And while we don't specifically have a traffic impact fee, there was a traffic impact fee negotiated with Tanforan at the time of redevelopment of Tanforan related to the intersection of Sneath and El Camino Real. Other cities have other types of impact fees. There's such thing as park impact fee. There is a specific traffic impact fee and master fee schedules. There's also public safety or police impact fees, for which San Bruno does not have. Staff analyzed the applicability of AB 1600, the state legislation, with the recent approval of the below market rate fee here in San Bruno. In doing the analysis, found that there are a number of exceptions to AB 1600 that does not, in fact, put what we have under the requirements of AB 1600, or at a minimum, negates the 5-year use period as AB 1600 requires. Park and lieu fees, for instance, that come under the Quimby Act are exempted from the requirement. Below market rate housing fees, because the way it was developed by the council and approved by the council, a developer has a choice between providing the housing or paying the fee. That also exempts the AB 1600 requirement. So at the end of the day, when Finance had completed its analysis, it found that the requirements for the AB 1600 essentially did not apply. However, the city manager did suggest and request that the Finance Department prepare for the City Council and for the public and for developers information on an annual basis, a report covering development impact fees showing both the revenues collected, the projects it has been allocated for, and the specific costs of those projects. All of that information has been included in this report, and again, for those fees that I've cited, it does show the revenues, the projects, and the cost of those projects. I just wanted to point out, as it relates to the Tanforan traffic impact fee, the council did defer collection of those fees for a period of time back in 2002. Tanforan has begun paying that impact fee, and to date, about 1/3 of the total due has been collected, and we are collecting those amounts on a quarterly basis now, and I believe it's another 4 years, 3 years where that total will be collected. Again, this information is for the City Council's information only, and the request is the Council review it and then accept the development impact fee annual report. With that, I'd answer any questions.
Mr. Leary, action from council to accept the report?
So moved.
Second. Motion and second. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item F, adopt resolution adding maintenance of distressed vacant property fee, registration of foreclosed and abandoned property fee, and state green building surcharge to city master fee schedule. Mr. Leary.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the City Council recently adopted 2 ordinances having to do with distressed vacant properties and also for foreclosed and abandoned properties that included the requirement that by resolution a fee be established for the recovery of city costs for the monitoring of these 2 ordinances. In addition to that, the state has adopted legislation that requires all cities, as part of their building permit process, to collect a green building surcharge and to transmit this surcharge to the state for green building regulations and activities of the state. As we typically would do for fees of this type, the proposal before you is to include these fees into the master fee schedule. We typically adopt the master fee schedule on an annual basis. July will be the next comprehensive amendment of the master fee schedule, but with the requirement of the ordinances to establish a fee and the state surcharge, this is an amendment to the master fee schedule, allowing us to begin to immediately to collect this fee to cover city costs for the ordinances and to collect the surcharge required by the state. With that, I'd answer any questions that the City Council has.
Any questions from council? We have a speaker on.
Robert Rico, 7th Avenue. Could you just take a half a minute and tell us what this green building really means, and what is a green building, and why does the state want money to do something about green buildings? Thank you.
perfectly honest, I can tell you more what it is. I don't know that I can tell you much about what it is. Aaron, do you?
At this point, they're just working out the basics, but what they're planning on doing is forming a commission, building commission, that's going to look at green building standards for the state and decide whether or not they want to implement statewide standards for green building. So this is basically the seed money to form this commission to form the statewide standards.
But what is, so what, I mean, why not, I mean, why green building, or why did they choose that word?
I think it's for the overall strategy towards towards sustainability and working towards what type of building materials will be most sustainable, what construction types will be most sustainable.
That's your question?
I could only suggest that if we sit here and explain what the state is doing, we would be here for a while probably.
Well, they have to figure it out first. Okay. Question or action from council?
The chair will introduce the resolution.
Okay, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye. Item G, adopt resolution authorizing city manager to execute with Rhyme Incorporated for preparation of groundwater management plan in the amount of $209,908. And, well,
Honorable Mayor and Council Member, what you have for your consideration tonight is to authorize the city manager to execute the agreement with Rhyme for the preparation of the groundwater management plan. This is a very important project for the long-term interest of the city to protect the quality and the sustainability of our groundwater. Will Anderson is the project manager for this project, and he will take you through a very brief presentation about the project. And also Pamela Thompson, she worked on these water-related issues with Rhyme for the last 4 years, and she would like to have some follow-up comments after Will's presentation.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Will Anderson, Staff Engineer, Public Works Department. I'm also a 10-year resident of San Bruno, although with the department for only about 4 months. As Clara said, I will be serving as project manager for this project, and I'll just kind of walk you through the intent and the goals of this project. We are fortunate enough to have access to subsurface waters, more commonly known as the West Side Basin. The slide on your left shows the outline of the entire basin, the purple line to the west, and it is delineated as both north and south, with San Bruno along with South San Francisco and Daly City being the municipal users of the subsurface water in the southern part, as shown on the slide on the right. The aquifer itself encompasses about 25 square miles underneath the southern cities, and the municipal users that actually use this water on a daily basis are Daly City, California Water Service, and the City of San Bruno. There are also some private users that use the subsurface water primarily for irrigation purposes at cemeteries and golf courses. The aquifer itself has been around for 100 years, and one of the main goals of this project is to keep it sustained for future use. As I have some data here from 1996 that shows the amount of water drawn from the aquifer on the southern part. The green amounts are million gallons per day of groundwater extracted. The blue areas are surface water, primarily from the Hetch Hetchy system. And as far as usage, San Bruno's, we use about 50%, or 50% of our supply comes from groundwater. From Daly City, it's about 40%. And for the California Water Service, it's about 20%. And for the private users, it's 100%. So it is a vital resource for lots of people. The purpose of the plan, well, first it has to comply with the state regulations, and it will provide for future management of this shared water resource. And due to our current lack of rains, subsurface water is a vital resource, especially when there's no surface water to be found. Another important goal is to sustain the quality and the quantity of the water, and that will primarily be done through monitoring and monitoring of the water levels and testing to ensure drinkability. We also need to determine that there's enough water there for all the participants to use, and the plan will also provide opportunities for increased groundwater usage if deemed necessary. Because I know in our Water Master Plan update, there were recommendations to construct additional wells, and this will help determine whether there's enough water for that to happen. All of the municipal users are on board with the project, and once this plan is in place, it will open the door for future fundings from state grants. So the process we're going to use to develop the plan, San Bruno is serving as the lead agency, and we have successfully applied for a state grant and received funding allocations in the amount of $209,908. The city, as the lead agency, will be contracting with a consultant who will actually prepare the plan under guidance by a project team consisting of representatives from all the municipal pumpers, and with the opportunity for private pumpers to be part of the project team if they so choose. The public engagement process is a vital component of this. It is required by the state as part of the grant, and it will also help gain public support for preparation of this plan. There are public meetings scheduled throughout the entire process, but they will be kind of front-loaded at the start to make sure that, you know, we are pointed in the right direction before we expend an extreme amount of effort. Another part of the public engagement is the quarterly reports to the State Department of Water Resources, as they are the funders of this project, so they will also be providing oversight to make sure that we are conforming to the requirements of the agreement. There will also be a website established, whether it's on the city's website or an outside website. Either way, if interested parties come to San Bruno's website, there will be a link to the project website. And throughout the process, well, specifically two issues will be approvals by the, in our case, the council. We will actually be coming back probably in about a 2-month time period to file a resolution of the notice of intent to prepare the plan. And then another resolution will be presented to council prior to the actual adoption of the final plan. Once the plan is in place, it will provide recommendations, and it's safe to assume that these recommendations will include monitoring of the existing groundwater, as well as modeling of the entire basin to see, and it will also have a data management system So as these recommendations are implemented, any new information gleaned from that will be incorporated into the plan. And any recommendations that are to be implemented will be presented to council before they are actually implemented. And I think on a 5-year basis, the plan will be revisited based on the information as these recommendations are implemented. As far as who's going to prepare the work, it's recommended that RIME, consulting firm out of Sacramento, we are recommending them based on their qualifications and knowledge of the basin. They have successfully worked with San Bruno past 4 years regarding some water issues, and I know they've worked with some of the partner agencies, and they are well respected by the agencies. RIME also did prepare the grant application, which was ultimately approved, and their cost proposal was compared to another city with a similar scope of work to San Bruno's, and it was actually within $1,000 of the other agency's cost. As far as schedule, it is planned to be complete and adopted by May of 2010. And as far as the budgeting, like I said, we do have grant funding for $209,908, and that money will be specifically used for the plan preparation. That is above and beyond the current CIP funding of this project. So San Bruno, along with the partner agencies, will be providing staff time for the review and development of the plan. So I guess at the budget adjustment for the second quarter, council will be requested to appropriate this grant funding that we've been approved for to this project, thereby freeing up the, some current CIP funding, which we can reduce the water capital project by $160,000, and the total project cost, including staff time of $30,000, is $239,908. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Before we take questions, I know the city attorney wanted to comment on this item, and then we'll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There were 2 points that I wanted to make about this application. First of all, I understand that the discussion on the particular points of the plan may seem a little bit dry because they're very technical, but I would like to say that the work that the city is about to undertake in completing a groundwater management plan is really one of the most significant and important things that it is currently undertaking. Unlike surface waters, which are really highly regulated by the state, groundwater has not been highly regulated by the state, and therefore it's very important that our city undergo an examination of how it will self-regulate its use of this important resource in order to make sure that it is sustainable and available to us and to future generations. And one of the ways that can occur is through a groundwater management plan, which is the use of which is encouraged, very highly encouraged by state law. But the piece that I really wanted to speak to was the recommendation of staff that the consulting firm of RIME be used to work with staff to develop this plan. As city attorney, I was highly pleased by this recommendation, and the reason for that is I have worked with this particular group for, well, actually almost since 2002 when I started here, on a number of water issues. Importantly, what I think RIME can contribute is, first of all, a scientific understanding of the basin, because they have done a lot of work with staff and with myself to understand exactly what this resource is that we have available to us here in San Bruno. And the second is they've worked very closely with me on a proposal by San Francisco to engage our city and other cities in a conjunctive use program, which generally involves the coordinated use of the aquifer by these different governmental entities, an issue which will be coming to you in the next couple of months for a more public discussion. The work that they have performed this other work that RIME has performed is directly relevant and related to the groundwater management plan. What it means is they really have already developed an intimate understanding of our resource, of the scientific data, all of which would be necessary to development of this plan. So they'll be able to sort of hit the ground running and not have a lot of startup time. So if you were to use a different consultant, you would be paying for that, and that won't be necessary here. I guess I did want to just additionally comment that last night, I was at the study session, and there was some discussion amongst the city council and the employees about when it is appropriate to use consultants. And I would say this is actually an example of a very appropriate and beneficial and useful coordination of staff with consultants. In this particular instance, I think that you will derive an economy, both in terms of their knowledge and the application of our monetary resources toward this plan.
Thank
so
you.
If there are any questions for me on that point.
I'd just like to comment that in working on the conjunctive use study with you, that all of the meetings that we ever attended over all these years, it constantly came up that we should have a groundwater management plan, and all of the agencies involved kind of looked at each other like, who's going to pay for that? And here we are in 2009, ready to develop one, and the state's funding it. Congratulations to all who worked and got us that far, including RIME. I think it's outstanding, and it's really going to give us an advantage to talk and work with this aquifer when we actually know what's there and we have an actual model to work from. So, Councilman Ibarra?
I'm just it's interesting. So it's fair to say that there's never been a plan. There was something in 1999, and it was never completed. So we've been pretty much just going on state quality quality of water, as far as testing and stuff, but no one's really monitored, the usage of the aquifer.
That's right, and RIME worked very closely with staff to develop this grant application, and that's another of their attributes, which is that they do know staff and they have a close and positive working relationship with them that will be beneficial to the city.
One last question. I assume that there's a big advantage of being the lead agency, especially when one of the partners are the PUC. So I mean, does that gain some?
It gives us a measure of control that I think will be useful.
Okay. Thank you.
Speaker.
Robert Rico, 7th Avenue. Just a quick question. You talk about trying to monitor the usage. A couple of years ago, we had an extensive report given on saltwater intrusion into the aquifer and testing locations along the bay. Will this program look at the update on that? Because if there's saltwater intrusion, that's going to cut down on usability. Thank you.
Yes, that's a good question. That monitoring continues and is planned to continue into the future, and that would be an important part of the groundwater management plan.
Any other questions or comments from council? Action from council?
I'd like to introduce, I think it's a resolution.
Resolution, yes.
Okay, I'd like to introduce the resolution.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye. Thank you. Item 9H, adopt resolution approving memorial policy and memorial design concepts and direct staff to initiate a call for artist proposal. Wendy.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. The San Bruno community is very, very rich with volunteers and service organizations that provide time and resource and talent to the projects and the programs that benefit the community. The Park and Rec Commission, under the direction of the City Council, has spent a significant amount of time developing a policy that can provide the city with guidelines so that we can honor and memorialize these individuals and organizations. In fact, there's a member, the chair of the Park and Rec Commission is here, Laura Davis. She worked hard on this project. A draft memorial policy was presented to the City Council at the May 13th meeting for comment and review. After making modifications that were requested by the City Council, the policy was then presented to the Parks and Rec Commission and received their approval. The Council has also directed, I have to tell you, the reason that I'm hesitating is I can't see a darn thing. I didn't used to need these. All right. The Council has also directed the Park and Rec Commission to work with the Cultural and Arts Commission to develop a design concept and recommend a location for the installation of a commissioned art project to serve as a central point for honoring these individuals and groups. The memorial policy, the goal was to honor a deceased individual for dedicated service to San Bruno, and the criteria include that the individual service has a positive or had a positive impact for the citizens of San Bruno. The person was viewed as an appropriate role model for the community and made a significant contribution to the community, and the individual must have been deceased for at least 1 year. There are 2 levels of recognition for the memorial policy. The first level is somebody who has given extraordinary service. That person had 25 years of dedicated service, was nominated by more than one organization, and was actively involved in multiple community programs. Persons who would meet that criteria would be eligible to have a city facility or facility component named in their honor. The individual also must have had a clear connection to that component or facility that would be named. The other level, level 2, is for special service. Those are people who had 15 years of service and were only nominated by one organization. And the city would honor those recipients through permanent forms of recognition, including but not limited to memorial trees, a memorial art installation, or some other special naming convention. There are 2 provisions in this draft policy that were also in the earlier draft policy that was presented to the City Council that had some questions, the City Council had some questions about. And those questions were, 1, is it necessary that a nominee be deceased to be honored for level 1, the extraordinary service, that would be the 25 years, and for special service? And the other question that the council members posed was about the requirement that a nominee receive recommendations from 2 organizations in order to be nominated to have a building or facility named after them. So those were questions that you asked last time this was presented to you. The memorial policy will be maintained as a citywide program, and information about the individuals memorialized will be accessible to the public and at the library or on the city website. Many community members have requested to have trees planted in honor of a friend or a loved one. A specific tree donation booklet will be designed and made available at City Hall and on the website to make it easy for people to follow guidelines so they can honor individuals and organizations by having trees planted in the city. And plaques identifying those honored individuals can be displayed in a central location. On occasion, also, the City of San Bruno may also choose to recognize and honor individuals, groups, or organizations who have made significant donations. Nomination and selection guidelines to honor individuals, groups, and organizations will be outlined in an application form that can be obtained from the Office of the City Clerk. The attached example of the application form for nominees does need a little bit of revision in the application form that you have. There were 2 buildings, the Fireman's Hall and the cable TV, that need to be added to the list of facilities. Now about the commissioned art projects. In the past, the city has planted numerous trees or installed benches in parks to pay tribute to individuals and organizations. But we're limited in space, and we need to find a way to continue to honor our citizens in a tasteful and meaningful manner. The council's requested that the Park and Recreation and Cultural and Arts Commissions evaluate potential sites for specific location for memorial art installation. And based upon the review of the 2 commissions, the art is proposed to include a low-profile monument, maybe of plaques, something that somebody could walk up to and admire, something that maintains the elegance and beauty for decades, a central location, maybe an artistic wall but not pavers, a possible memorial grove or canopy of trees with a central recognition point, a living artistic monument designed so that names can be added as needed, and a possible area within the monument so that you can also have plaques of names of people who have donated trees to the city. And here we have, ta-da, the recommended site. The recommended site that the commissions came up with is in San Bruno City Park, and it's located on the hill between the Rotary Pavilion and the Recreation Center. If the site is approved by the City Council, the Cultural and Arts Commission can develop and send out a detailed call for artists to solicit proposals. The preliminary estimate, based on the cost of previous public art projects, is that the project would cost between $25,000 and $35,000, and funds for the project could be allocated from the Public Arts Fund. It's also proposed that any cost related to the recognition of an individual be borne by the donating party, and fees generated in excess of the actual cost, let's say of a plaque or a tree, by the nominating honoree can be a revenue source for the Public Art Fund. The Culture and Arts Commission will work with the subcommittee from the Parks and Rec Commission to provide the City Council with a selection of artists. So the proposed policy and art installation site selection is presented for review and consideration to the City Council. And I'm available to answer any questions.
Questions of staff?
Through the chair. Wendy, did the committee go over, did they have any examples of past installations in other communities of some of these types of installations,
No,
especially exterior ones?
No, what we envision is some kind of an art project that would have maybe 3 facets to it. One would be something that would be on a more permanent level, which would be for people who have maybe are level 2 donated, spent maybe 15 years, and something a little bit more substantial. Then another area where we could have plaques for trees for people who've donated trees, but something that would be central and beautiful and be something that would enhance the community.
Yeah. 2 comments on that, and one thing is that I can't envision anything that's going to be a departure from a cemetery. So I mean, I think it's going to be a big challenge for some of these artists to come up with something that's more community involved and different than what I'm envisioning as just a bunch, a series of plaques of deceased people. So that's what I'm seeing, and that's been some of the comments of people walking through the park, is that you walk through and you see plaque after plaque after plaque on a rock at the foot of a tree. My other concern is that has there been any concern about an inundation of applications? I mean, are they going to limit per year the amount of recognitions? I know there's been talk in the past of a so-called Hall of Fame, and that what I know as a sports buff is that there's only a certain amount of people recognized each year to the Hall of Fame. So, you know, will there be a periodic thing, or is it going to be something that's just ongoing? You know, is someone going to have to monitor these applications as they come in on a possibly, you know, monthly basis? So.
I think that one of the intents was to have the applications presented on an annual basis. And another one of the goals of this is to avoid having lots of benches or plaques all over the park, and have it developed into something that is beautiful and one area where people can actually go and relax and it'd be a special place. So that the whole goal is to mitigate the issue of having the park look like a cemetery.
Through the chair.
Councilman Vice Mayor.
Yeah, you've done a great job. Congratulations. My concern too that, and I walk in the park quite a bit, we don't have a park bench instead of a bench park, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of them around. And so I think, you know, culture and arts is going to have quite a challenge, but they'll get through it.
I just had one, you made a comment that on excess revenue collected, it would be a funding source for Cultural Arts Commission. And I just have a real concern on that, in that the Cultural Arts Commission has, by ordinance, a specific funding mechanism. And I think any excess revenue on donations should become general fund money. And I'd hate to leave here this evening leaving the impression that, which by resolution you can't create that funding source, but that be real clear, that the funding source is outlined in ordinance for the Cultural Arts Forum, and it's an additional percentage fee charged on building permits and whatnot, but that on any excess donation, if $100 was donated for the cost of a tree and it only costs $75, that $25 goes into the general fund, presumably to assist with maintenance and growth of the tree, but not completely reserved in a different fund.
Through the chair. I know this has been a long process for the commission and the staff. I just, as in reading some of the guidelines, it puts up as far as multiple community programs. I'm assuming that means at least 2. We're talking about having to be the role model, an appropriate role model in the community. I don't know how whoever's reviewing this or where it goes to, how you're going to gauge that. You are asking for recognized San Bernardino organizations. We may have some stipulations in process when it comes to rentals of facilities and what that stipulates, but at what point is a recognized organization and at what level that it would deem appropriate for it to be considered within the criteria. I think that was, yeah, I think it's overdue, and I do appreciate some of the comments of the other council. Obviously, we've stopped in placing benches in City Park for some time now because of the excess due to the people wanting to honor loved ones. And I'm just hoping that there is something that we can establish that is notable for the community to be proud of, but also keeps in mind where its location is and the protection of that, because there's going to be an investment of time and love, and I would hate to see some type of vandalism or other thing happen to it because we didn't think of the big picture. And that concerns me in some of the places in the communities I've gone to. You know, it's a great thing where it's located, and then all of a sudden something gets destroyed or damaged. And so that's something that hopefully we can take into consideration.
I'd also kind of echo Councilman Ibarra's concern on the onset of applications, and perhaps there should be some type of limiting number per year that are awarded in the first, in the 2 specific categories, the extraordinary service and the special service. And I don't know what that magic number is, if it's 1, if it's 3, if it's 2, but that there should be some type of limit, so you're not having 1 year 40 applications and Any other comments?
I don't believe we addressed the question of whether you needed to be deceased or not.
This is 1 year.
Councilman O'Connell?
The way you asked that question.
For which part? Because it says nominee must have been deceased for at least 1 year. Is that? Okay. I too want to congratulate everyone involved in this. It is a long process, and there's a lot of people that you've had to please. So I think you did a good job on all of this. I have a different image of what we were talking about. I was thinking of the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. that is just the simple wall with the names on it. It doesn't look like a graveyard or anything. It's just a beautiful place to meditate. So maybe some kind of combination of that with the grove of trees. I think somebody out there has enough imagination that it'll be beautiful and appropriate. So with that, unless there's anything else I'd like to introduce.
Just as a comment, if the council wants to limit the number of applications, that should be included in the resolution this evening.
Through the chair, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I also believe there should be a limitation of the numbers annually. The other thing, Councilman Ibarra asked about the question of the nominee or individual, must they have been deceased for 1 year for 2 of the 25-year or 15-year? That was a question that we posed. I think I was one that had some mixed emotions because of a past dedication not too long ago. For me personally, I would say that we should keep the language in the way it is presented, and of course, down the road, future councils, if a situation or extraordinary measures come up at that point, I think that could be examined and acted upon at that time, but that we should probably go with this criteria for that.
Just some clarification. When you say limit the number of applications or nominations?
No, actually, it would be the awardees. Right. You could have 100 applications, I would imagine, but in any given year, there'd only be 1 or 2 or 3.
And would that be for both levels, for the memorial or for the memorial and, say, an organization as well? That be just for the memorial, for the
extraordinary service and the special service. And the memorial, if people wanted to plant trees in memory of 200, that doesn't matter. It's just on the extraordinary service, naming of facilities, or the special service for the 15 years of service, that there be some limit annually. And any suggestion from council on the number that it be limited to?
Through the chair, does it need to be in the resolution? Can't that come back as a staff recommendation on when we find out what the art is and how much it would take to actually do the memorial? Or, I mean, we may not get. I understand what you're saying. You want to keep it extraordinary.
Well, you're doing a bunch of things this evening. Probably, if you're going to do that, then what you should do is just go out for the call for art and set the policy later. But right now, you're setting the policy by this resolution. So you can either separate it and set the policy later and just do the call for art, or you can do the policy now. But if you include the policy in the resolution this evening, you should include all of the limitations on it. Or you could pass the resolution to, consider it at a different time.
Through the chair, I think my opinion is if we go through with the whole package here, that we do have a limitation and we do oppose a number, and I think that will help to define what artwork scope and project that they might be looking at. And I'll throw out a number of 2.
That would be 2 for each category?
Yes.
Or is that, okay. Any other suggestions or agreement from council?
And just to clarify, Wendy had said that there would be on an annual basis. Is that in the?
Yeah, so that would be 2 nominations, not applications, 2 nominations for each category on an annual basis.
Correct. Okay.
And just to clarify, that does not include the personal tributes and recognition, so that's...
No, that can be unlimited. Anyone that wants to make a contribution or plant a tree, or...
It could be 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
That does not matter. It's just those 2 main
Up to two.
Categories.
Say the word up to two.
Go for it.
Okay.
Okay,
Sir.
with those additions and clarifications, I'd like to introduce the resolution.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye. Item 9I, adopt resolution approving the reassignment of channel number for the San Bruno local origination channel from channel 11 to channel 1.
Honorable Mayor and council members, good evening. The item before you tonight is consideration for approval of a reassignment of the channel number for San Bruno local origination from channel 11 to channel 1. Staff is proposing the channel reassignment because it'll achieve two main objectives. Those two. The first objective is to satisfy a contractual obligation to relocate the home shopping channel QVC from its current position on channel 24 to another location on the channel lineup. And the second objective is to capture channel 1, a prominent location on our channel lineup, for the placement of the San Bruno local origination channel. To address the first objective, QVC has demanded that it, by its last contract, that it be located away from Home Shopping Network, the competing home shopping channel. Given the tight positioning of the channels and existing contractual obligations at that time to place certain channels on specific channel positions, there was not an opportunity to reassign QVC to another spot on our channel lineup. Given that predicament, to move forward and reach a mutually acceptable agreement, San Bruno Cable offered and QVC accepted that QVC channel, in addition to being carried on a full-time basis on channel 24, would also be carried on a part-time basis on channel 10. That arrangement was acceptable to San Bruno Cable because channel 10, as you all know, was the California channel, carried part-time between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. So during the off hours, 4 p.m. to 9 a.m., San Bruno Cable was able to simulcast QVC on channel 10 and meet that contractual obligation for the time being. San Bruno Cable derives a commission from all the sales generated from San Bruno QVC sales, so it did not hurt us to have the channel in two places. However, early last December, as you know, California Channel surprisingly announced that it would be switching to a full-time status effective January 1st, 2009. This unanticipated change in status of the California Channel affected our contractual obligation with QVC, leading the network to fall back on its original demand of channel reassignment. To address this objective, as an analog cable system, the lowest channel number that San Bruno Cable could utilize at the time of the contract was channel 2. However, since the completion of San Bruno Cable's transition to an all-digital system last October, San Bruno Cable can now utilize a virtual number system, enabling the use of channel 1 as the first channel in our lineup. With the availability of channel 1, the San Bruno Cable could relocate QVC to meet the contract obligation. However, given the prominent location of channel 1, staff is of the opinion that it would best serve the city to reassign San Bruno local origination channel to channel 1 instead and reassign QVC to channel 11. This action again would facilitate the fulfillment of the contract obligation and place San Bruno Cable local origination channel on the #1 spot in our channel lineup. The FCC rules require San Bruno Cable provide a 30-day notice to customers for any channel movement or reassignments. To comply with this requirement, subsequent to council approval, San Bruno Cable would provide notice to customers in their February billing and their March billing, and this channel will reassignment would take effect on March 2nd, 2009. The City Council Ad Hoc Committee, the City Council Cable Ad Hoc Committee, and has reviewed this matter and recommends approval. This includes my report, and we welcome questions.
Any questions of staff?
Through the chair.
Councilmember Medina?
I know we've gone from channel 3 to 11, and now the recommendation is 1. If this passes this evening, would we, I guess I don't want to keep moving the channel continuously. Right. I think you establish it, it grows in the community. It took a long time for people to remember it's not 3 anymore, it's 11. And so now you want to change it to 1 with maybe some type of a promotion. So does staff then believe that 1 is where we'll keep it and not just for a couple years and move it again?
Yeah, the alternative, there is an alternative to put it on channel 24. But what we think the problem is going to be is when we get to negotiations again, someone's going to say, hey, we want to be in this tier, and we're going to have to move it off of 24. So we want to keep it in limited basic. One's available. There are no other channels at this time. At some point, staff could reconsider our limited basic channel numbers and move things around. But if we move one channel up, everybody's going to say, well, I used to be on channel 28. How come I moved? So that may present a whole new set of problems. So at this point, channel 1 would be the best channel.
Okay, and that sounds like it would be maintained for quite a while.
I think so, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Action from council?
Through the chair, will introduce a resolution for adoption.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ruane.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye. Item 9J, adopt resolution approving rates for cable television, commercial broadband, internet services.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, good evening. The item before you this evening is the adoption of rates for selling bandwidth to businesses. At the present time, 2 local businesses have expressed an interest in purchasing bandwidth from San Bruno Cable. To address this business opportunity, staff has developed a rate schedule for the sale of bandwidth. The rate schedule is based on San Bruno Cable's current bandwidth purchase cost and what potential customers are paying to their current provider. The proposed rate schedule is comprised of 3 main components. The first component is a loop charge. This loop charge is for dedicating fiber facilities for providing an independent connection. Staff is proposing a loop charge of $600 per account based on the previous adopted fiber leasing rate schedule. The second component is the construction and equipment charge. Depending upon the location of the customer's facilities, there may be some construction required. Also, depending upon the amount of bandwidth desired by the customer, there may be equipment requirements. The costs associated with such construction and equipment requirements are passed on to the customer. The customer has options of either paying the cost upfront or a one-time charge, or having the cost amortized over the term of the agreement. Such charges will vary from job to job. And the last component is the bandwidth charge. Staff is proposing bandwidth charge of $35 per megabyte for the first 100 megabytes of bandwidth. The proposed rate for the next 100 megabytes of bandwidth is $30 per megabyte. And for the bandwidth in excess of 200 megabytes, the proposed rate is $20 per megabyte. So the loop charge, the construction and equipment charge, and the bandwidth charge make up 3 main components of the rate schedule. Although we have approached by only a couple of businesses today for bandwidth, staff is of the opinion that the business located in the Bay Hill Business Park and the surrounding areas are interested in alternative sources for their bandwidth needs. Given the San Bruno Cable has a fiber ring around the Bay Hill Business Park and is available to purchase bandwidth at a wholesale rate, San Bruno Cable is in a great position to compete with incumbent bandwidth providers for the business and achieve a respectable profit from this revenue source. However, in order to aggressively pursue this business opportunity, focused marketing and sales innovation would be required. Immediately, there is a potential to generate new business in the amount of $2,700 per month or $32,400 per year without any major effort or expenditures on San Bruno Cable's part. As such, staff recommends that the City Council adopt the proposed rate schedule for the sale of bandwidth. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer.
Questions of staff? Councilmember
Through the
Barrett?
Chair, was it within the last couple of years we sold some bandwidth to Google?
We sold dark fiber. It wasn't bandwidth, leased fiber. And it's still in process and it's going over good.
And so, obviously, whoever wants to buy this bandwidth, I mean, they're going to shop it, and they're going to see that San Bruno or AT&T is 3 times more, or more than 3 times more, and so we have a run on the market.
I'm not sure if it'll be, AT&T will be 3 times more than we are, but we can beat AT&T's prices, because I just got new quotes from AT&T, and we're making it very competitive for us.
So, I mean, have we secured the school district?
I talked to them yesterday, and they have a city school meeting tomorrow morning, or tomorrow night, and they are very excited about what we're offering, and hopefully, there's no reason why they wouldn't give us the fiber.
And just that, I mean, it's probably in here, but how much bandwidth do we have to sell?
Right now, we have about 700 megahertz available right this moment. We are in the negotiations of renewing one of the contracts. When that does happen, we'll probably have 1.4 gigabytes of bandwidth available to sell. This reason it's so much that we have on sale, we aren't paying for all of it, but it's sitting there waiting for us to use it, and we have a very good rate on a burstable option. Sure. So if we do have a customer that wants to buy 100 megabits, we can put it on right now and then, and we get a very low rate for the extra bandwidth that we're using.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Any other questions? Action from council?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye. Item 9K, adopt resolution approving increase in construction budget for the water pump station number 5 Maple replacement project in the amount of $35,000.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm before you to ask for an increase in the project budget for the Maple Pump Station project to allow us to approve a change order to deal with some problems we encountered with the pumps. The contract for this project was awarded in November of 2007 in the amount of $2,288,000, and that was the total construction cost, including $200,000 in contingencies. The project itself involved the complete rebuild, brand new pump building, and the installation of 3 brand new pumps, which is to meet our pumping needs. The project was designed by Brown & Caldwell, who's a respected engineering firm, and they, as I said, proposed 3 new pumps, with each pump having a pumping capacity of 550 gallons per minute. On December 8th, we were sufficiently complete with the project that we had the buildings in place, we received the pumps, and we initiated pump testing. When we initiated that testing, we discovered that the pumps really were grossly over-designed. When we turned them on, they were pumping at 1,100 gallons per minute, and they were designed at a point that we couldn't operate those pumps without doing damage to the pumps or doing damage to the rest of our infrastructure. So we deemed that an unsuccessful test and immediately looked at what the necessary correction would be. During that process, we discovered that the design engineer made an error in their design that resulted in this significant over-design. The consultant has worked with us, and we've identified a solution. The good thing is we have over-designed pumps, and we have an opportunity with the way they're designed that they can be removed, sent back to the manufacturer, and reworked to remove some impellers to reduce their capacity. We have a firm quote from the contractor of $35,000 to do the removal, rework the pumps, reinstall them, so that we can continue with the testing to ensure that the pump station operates. Since we, this is a positive thing that we found a solution, but we also felt that there was responsibility on the part of the designer. And so we went to the designer, and they have agreed to compensate the city for the additional $35,000 in construction costs necessary to make this repair. So at this point in time, we're asking the council to, in turn, increase our project budget so that we can go ahead and have this corrective work accomplished. And with that, I'm available to answer questions.
Through the chair.
Questions? Councilmember Wayne?
Are there any delays and costs associated with those delays by sending these pumps back and reworking them?
So at this point in time, there's not a contractor delay. There are other control equipment that the general contractor is waiting for delivery on. So if we act quickly and we're able to approve this within this week, we're not going to be encounter any delay claims from the contractor.
Okay. Through the chair.
Councilwoman O'Connell?
When these pumps get reworked, will that affect any kind of warranty that we might have on them, or any kind of subsequent repairs that might happen?
So this solution was developed in consultation with the pump manufacturer. So there will be no change in the warranty, or the we'll be completely whole. We'll have exactly the same warranty. They will be brand new pumps. So there's no impact or harm to us in that regard.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, one more thing regarding the potential delays. If there aren't delays, it doesn't cost anything, but can we stipulate that, in fact, if there are, it's the responsibility of the designer?
We've made that point very clear with the designer, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Through the chair.
Councilmember
Okay,
Rivera?
so we're not paying anything extra, and so it looks as if, has Brown and Caldwell's fee been paid in full? Because it says, I mean, it says here that they will, through a reduction in design fees, it seems that they've expended all of that, or they've designed everything.
So actually the design contract with Brown and Caldwell was to design 2 pump stations. And so we are probably 15% progress in the second project. So there's still budget available that we can take advantage of the full value of their contribution here.
Okay, so we'll see that accounting when that
Yes.
time comes, that there'll be a reduction in the design fees. Okay. Just want to make sure that we do see that $35,000 credit.
Further questions?
I just have a comment to make, which I'm sure you're going to do anyway, but just so the public knows that since these kinds of things happened on this contract, that the other contract, I assume you're going to double check or triple check, or whatever reason this happened is not going to happen in the next one. So, and I know you're very involved in this. How much involvement do our people who actually use the pumps all the time and are the water people, how much involvement do they have in these kinds of things?
So actually, we have a design team, and so the water manager and senior pump mechanic have been at the table involved throughout the entire design. So we're intimately engaging the water operations folks in the whole design process and in the construction process and the sign-off. Regarding the opportunity, we're actually looking at this as an opportunity. We intend to sit down with the consultant and do a lessons learned so that we can be better positioned to avoid similar situations in the future.
Okay, thank you very much.
Further questions? Action from council?
The chair will introduce the resolution.
Roll call.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye. And just before we leave this item, I was informed informally last evening that the station at Maple Avenue is being painted, but not the color that the council selected by minute order. So if we just make sure that, in fact, the clerk pulls the minute order where the council selected the color, and it is, in fact, being painted the color that the council selected.
If I could just briefly answer that question, I did ask staff to direct the answer to the person who asked the question originally, so I wasn't, didn't get back to you directly, Mr. Mayor. At the current time, the pump station is receiving what would be considered a preliminary treatment. It's actually part of the wall finish as opposed to the actual color that will be finally placed on the building. And I've been informed that not only is it fully our expectation and intent to provide the color as selected by the City Council, but we'll be painting a test sample area in advance of the full building painting so that anybody is interested can review that personally and make sure that we've covered all the bases.
Excellent. Item 9L, adopt resolution authorizing submittal of public facilities rehabilitation grant application to the San Mateo County Housing Department in the amount of $70,000 for 2 ADA compliant wheelchair lifts for the San Bruno Library. Mrs. Jackson.
Thank you. And thank you for your understanding and patience in placing this item on your agenda tonight. The library is in the process of applying for a grant that requires City Council support, and we are under a tight deadline to comply with the requirements of the grant application process. As the City Council is well aware, the library lacks accessibility for persons with disabilities, in particular to the downstairs meeting room and the upstairs mezzanine. Given that a new library is not an option in the near future, staff has been exploring opportunities to pursue grant funding to purchase 2 wheelchair lifts. For those on the council with a long memory, we have periodically pursued this in the past 25 years or so. Today's technology makes these lifts not only feasible, but also relatively affordable. Staff has worked with Mark Sullivan, redevelopment manager, to get information about federal community development block grant funds, known as CBDG funds. The Assistant Library Services Director, John Alita, has attended these meetings and is in the process of completing the grant in the amount of $70,000, which will fund 2 wheelchair lifts. As part of the application process, the San Mateo County Housing Department has requested a resolution from potential grantee cities to demonstrate City Council approval of the grant application. The application is due next Thursday, January 22nd, which is why I'm here tonight at this meeting to ask your approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding this grant application process, and the grant would come back to you if we were to receive the grant.
Okay. Questions of staff?
Through the chair, the second lift will go down to the basement?
That's correct. It would be outside on the exterior wall of the stairs, and the interior one would be at the west side of the west staircase of the building.
Great.
Direction from council?
The chair will introduce the resolution.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Buane.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Frantella.
Aye. Item 10, public comment for items not on the agenda. It's the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and/or action where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state law. Mr. Eichel.
Robert Rico, 7th Avenue. I was up at John Muir today, and I happened to ask the question, what were they able to do for the students to be able to see and partake in the inauguration next week? Did they have access to San Bruno cable? It appears that some of our schools either don't have cable or they don't have it in enough locations, so I think that the council needs to look at what they desire to have cable in the various schools, and maybe see if they can prod installation, not before next Tuesday, but I mean, I thought when cable came in, or in the beginning, there was some agreement that the schools would be supplied with cable to some level. You might just want to revisit that so that the students can have that ability. Thank you.
Thought they had it. Thank you. We'll take a look at it. Anyone else? Okay, reports of commission, boards, and committees. Item 12, comments from council members. Receive report from City Council Climate Change and Sustainability Subcommittee regarding proposed ordinance to ban polystyrene. Vice Mayor Ruane.
Through the chair. Myself and Councilwoman O'Connell are on the Climate Change and Sustainability Committee. We've reviewed rather extensively with staff some of the concerns that some of the vendors had regarding the last proposal to ban polystyrene, and we would like to bring the revisions back in the form of an ordinance for hopefully a positive review at the next meeting.
Okay. Hearing no objection, will staff be in position to bring that back by next meeting?
And we understand from working with the Sustainability Subcommittee of the City Council that the specific desire is that this be brought back with changes as proposed by the discussion that was had by the City Council in late 2008, and that this be brought back for a public hearing as a first reading item.
Hearing no objection.
Oh, I'm not objecting. I think we should make some effort to make sure that the people who were at the last meeting are notified of this meeting, and that they can have the opportunity to come and make comments.
The clerk can notify those people specifically. There are a handful of 10 or 12, and then we'll do the public notice. She has the list.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. We'll look forward to that. And Rico, you mentioned you had something.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to announce that, and give a little history before I announce that this month there will be a second meeting. To go back, what the police department did was trying to outreach to the community, and in early November on the 9th, had a meeting at St. Bruno's Church. And primarily it was to outreach to folks on crime prevention and prevention awareness. And that was done both in English and in Spanish, so that we could reach out to the community and hopefully get the knowledge and the information out to those who are interested. I attended that and participated by sitting in the audience and, yes, not even saying anything. Jim, you'd be impressed.
Wow.
Surprise. But
must have hurt.
It did. But I will tell you, the community came forward, and it was thanks to the efforts of the police department, who the chief was there along with other staff, and presented again both in English and Spanish. And we had a combination of people in the community that had questions and inquiries. From that, there's going to be a graffiti information leaflet that will come out, and from that, because of the questions that they asked, we're going to have one side in English and one side in Spanish, thanks to the Community Development Department that's working on that, the Crime Prevention Committee that has reviewed it and has a suggestion or two. So with that, they have now come together. That was at St. Bruno's Church, and again it will be at St. Bruno's Church. Last time it was on a Sunday in the afternoon. This time it will be Monday at 6:30 p.m. on January 26th. This topic primarily will be discussing gang prevention. So we encourage anyone and all who wish to come and be a part of it. Again, it will be a community meeting where it will be translated in English and Spanish to outreach to the Latino community and to hopefully better educate the adult community to the seriousness of the gangs and ways they can help prevent and educate themselves to assist the youth of this community.
Thank you, Rico. Irene?
Thank you. I was hunting for a street address the other day, driving up and down, and could not find it because they had no lights. None of the street addresses on the houses were lit. They weren't visible, and the ones that were maybe about 3 inches tall. So I know I mentioned this a few meetings ago about maybe the crime prevention and fire and police could all get together and do some kind of program that encourages people to replace or fix or do something to make their home addresses visible, because I know it's really a safety concern when you absolutely get a call and need to be someplace. So just bringing that up again.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments from council? Okay, at this time, I'd like to recess the City Council and call the San Bruno Redevelopment Agency to order. We can have roll call, please.
Agency Member Medina.
Here.
Agency Member Ibarra.
Here.
Agency Member O'Connell. Here. Vice Chair Ruane.
Here.
Chair Franzella.
Here. Approval of minutes of the regular meeting of November 17th, 2008. They'll stand approved as submitted unless there's any changes or corrections.
I'm just going to abstain from that, since obviously I was out for duration of the meeting due to.
Any
conflict.
other?
And I am, since I wasn't here.
Okay, so Member O'Connell and Medina are abstaining, and it'll show that the minutes will stand approved with those abstentions. Public hearings, there are none. Consent calendar, adopt resolution accepting the independent auditor's report, the city's comprehensive annual financial report, and the redevelopment agency report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2008. It's the same action that was taken by the city council regarding the city's audits. This is on the redevelopment agency. Is there any questions of staff or action from members?
Through the chair, I'll introduce the resolution.
Roll call, please.
Vice Chair Ruane.
Aye.
Agency Member Medina.
Aye.
Agency Member Ibarra.
Aye.
Agency Member O'Connell.
Aye.
Chair Franzella.
Aye. Public comment for items not on agenda. Is there anyone wishing to address the agency board? Seeing none, the redevelopment agency will adjourn until the next regular meeting to be called at a time to be determined pursuant to statute. The city council will be going into closed session for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel regarding potential litigation pursuant to California Government Code Section 549569B1. There will be no reportable items from there. And this evening, we'd like to adjourn the meeting, and unfortunately, on a bit of a sad note, we adjourn the meeting in memory of Private First Class Benjamin Tollefson, who was killed in Iraq on December 31st. Private Tollefson leaves behind his wife, Natalie Tollefson, who's also the niece of Councilman Ibarra, and an 8-month-old son, Mark. So if we can just keep the entire family in our prayers and have a moment of silence. The City Council from the closed session will adjourn to the next regular City Council meeting, which will be held on January 27th, 2009 at 7 o'clock p.m. here at the San Bruno Senior Center. Thank you.